their systems are set up to monitor and to track, right? So that's what they do. I think that we are at a crossroads with an immense amount of responsibility as a society. So I think that this is also my argument as to why I think most people, before forming an opinion about AI, should really, really, really invest in some education and understanding about in what ways does it apply to them in their daily life? In what ways does it have potential? In what ways is it fraught with danger? So you go to school, you get your degree, you get a PhD, your line of study, you're an expert. Does that person know more than a person who has spent 30 or 40 years independently and in-depth researching on a topic? I don't think they do.
All right. Greetings, humans. I'm delighted today to have a close personal friend of mine that I've known for
35.
Like 35 years. Holy crap. I was
where's that
one with 20? Oh my gosh, we're old.
We're older than that, David.
Yeah. Well, I just realized that anyone under 25 wasn't alive for 9/11. So like
that's true.
That's hard to wrap your brain around if you really think about it.
I try not to pay attention to those reality checks.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they slap you in the face. So anyway, we are here with Jacqueline Small, close personal friend of mine, Director of Cultural Preservation for the Institute for Natural Philosophy. She worked in palliative care for 12 years. She's now currently studying anthropology. She made a pivot from literature and English. Was that what it was, to anthropology?
Yeah, I wanted to be a classicist.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today is because you're a woman of many interests, and you like to nerd out on a bunch of different things, and you can kind of talk about a bunch of different things. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about disclosure, that kind of modern disclosure, as I call it. Want to get into a lot of AI stuff with you today, Jacqueline, because I just can't stop thinking about if we're all going to die or not, or if it's going to be like Star Trek, and it's going to be awesome. So, and that's one of the things Jacqueline and I have nerded. Yeah. Jacqueline and I have a lot of common interests in this. Like, we're big Star Trek people. We both we're all in on Stargate, SG-1, all these things. We've been nerding out on Graham Hancock together for a decade and a half at least. Yeah. And so, but you know what, Jacqueline? I'm fucking bored of lost ancient civilizations, so I don't really want to talk about that today.
Oh, no. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, Go ahead.
It is kind of ad nauseum for some people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I talk about it a lot. It's
kind of my jam, but
it is my jam too. And we can get into that because it's connected, man. Shit's all
I would agree.
And we'll get into that, but I just don't want to get into the pyramids are older than we think they are. Blah blah blah. Blah. It's like it is ad nauseum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just to demonstrate Jacqueline's wide array of interests, why don't you go ahead and read your current reading list for us behind you? Tell us what you got going on back there.
Right now, I am reading Broke His Brain.
What's Broke His Brain?
That's Carl Sagan. It's a classic.
Oh, yeah.
That's a classic, everybody.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. I am reading, this one's a cool one. This was 60 cents, like in the 60s, which I found at a secondhand store. So that's like early mid-century anthropology, which I love stuff like that. I collect things like that. Realm of the Incas. I'm reading Bertrand Russell, The Problems of Philosophy.
Love it.
Yes. Old Man and the Sea, Ernest Hemingway. That's also a classic.
Is that the 12th grade mandatory reading in Canada? 10th grade, something like that? One of those?
I didn't have to read it, but
I didn't have to read it. Yeah, no, I didn't have to read it. Actually, the first time I read this was in Cuba. So that's significant. And Archaeology, Theories, Method, and Practice. That is a textbook from school. And Treasures of Ancient America, which is kind of like a pictorial book. It's a really, really beautiful book that I bought at the auction, which I am the photographer at.
Oh, fun.
Nice.
Yeah. And we have to put them back nicely because that's the kind of person I am.
Yeah. It's funny,
Okay.
funny how Jacqueline and I are like so similar in a lot of ways, but so different too, because my bookshelves all over the place back there and just it's a mess behind me. But I think that's why our friendship works.
It does.
So most of that back there is ancient history related. But like I said, we want to talk a little bit about UFO disclosure and AI. I really want to talk to somebody who's been paying attention to AI for a while and staying in touch with the news and has put in some thought to the all the ethical, existential, moral dilemmas that go along with it. And I also saw a recent post of yours that you are been nerding out on archaeogenetics lately.
Yes. So that's one of my personal side quests. I would say that in terms of actual academic study, I'm getting a little ahead of myself there because we don't necessarily talk about it in school, but it's something that I read about and kind of, I'm a big Sarah, my dear Dolly, my co-host of Universe Unveiled.
Jacqueline's also the co-host of the Universe Unveiled podcast.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She would say I like to collect and hoard information. So, which is that's really a very accurate description. So I keep little side quest folders, and just like anytime I come across information about the particular subjects that I'm interested in, one of them being archaeogenetics, I just kind of so I do that, and I've been doing that for many, many years. So you can imagine what my desktop looks like. Archaeogenetics, very interesting.
Are you going to be talking about that on the UU News tomorrow?
Last week we did our live episode. I presented kind of like an intro for everyone of what archaeogenetics is, the methodology, just like, being the director of cultural preservation, it's my duty and job to kind of introduce topics and provide easy, accessible information to people. So yeah, I highlighted it last week. Go catch the episode, David.
on last week, I guess I missed it. I thought you were going to be doing it this week, but you must have posted a clip from last week.
We did. So we've been doing our news segment, which we do the Sweet Sunday News every Sunday, and we've been doing it live. Okay. We're pre-recording, but now we've been doing it live. So,
well, pre-recording is like a pain because then you got to edit and whatnot. And Bingo. Who's got time for that? Unless you've got an Olek. Shout out to our editor, Olek.
Yes.
And also, it gives you a chance to engage with, an audience and build like a regular audience of people who want to tune in and hang out.
It's more fun. I like hearing from people and getting people, positive and negative feedback is I'm here for it. So yeah, well, I rather like being called out. So,
I'm a little sensitive about it, but I'm getting used to it though, because now that we're building an audience and we've got some well-performing episodes, every day I got somebody in my YouTube comments why did you blah blah blah, you talked about this too much and yada yada, and it's what I do is I kill them with kindness. I just thank them, and then I say something passive aggressive, maybe a little passive aggressive,
maybe a little something. Sarah is Sarah's a good salt dropper, so I leave that to her, and then I kind of swoop in with the diplomacy and tact a little bit. But for the most part, who really cares? Actually,
yeah.
Who really cares? You can't please everyone, and so
no, you can't. And some of the stuff that people comment is just I'm what'd
you do today?
Yeah, who pissed in your Cheerios? And it's why did you watch a 2-hour episode if you weren't enjoying it? You know, you could go find an episode about the exact same topic on YouTube that's 10 minutes long, if that's what you want.
But like, thanks for the view and the comment.
I always say that. I always say that.
Especially because your comments are time stamped and it's like it pops in at the end. I'm like, okay, so you hung out for a long time. Yeah.
And any comment is good comment. I love when people think it's still live, because when we do a live stream, some people think it's still live. So then they just start loading it up with comments after the fact, and then they get like 20 comments afterwards.
We would like run into that because we would often do our pre-recordings and then like live premiere them.
Yes.
Right? So the chat is live and like people are asking questions as though they can engage real time. So
yes. Shout out Rue. I bet Rue's done that.
I love Rue. He has.
Everyone loves Rue. Rue. I haven't seen Rue in a couple weeks.
He's got a couple things going on.
Yeah, I think he does. Shout out Rue. I hope everything's going well with Rue and his family. I know Rue's gonna tune into this though. So we're thinking about you, buddy.
Because I'm the Lady Druid. That's what he calls me.
Yeah, he loves you guys. He likes to give you guys shit. But in a good way.
he's good to us. He's good stuff. I like Rue.
Yeah, same. So the topic. So this is a direct quote from a text you sent me yesterday. You called the disclosure drop yesterday, or was it the day before? I think it was on Thursday. UFO disclosure for NPCs.
That's what it is.
And I feel the same way. Look, you know me, big X-Files guy. Sometimes I feel like we're all Fox Mulder and we're all being led by our noses along a certain path to believe whatever they want us to believe about UAPs, UFOs.
It sure feels that way, doesn't it? Like it sure feels that way. And like you get the people who are in the thick of it. Like maybe they just found it, or maybe they're all in, you know what I mean? Everyone's interested in different things, and everyone kind of like is subscribing to different exterior content outside of their life. So you get people who are just so invested in these topics. So when someone like me says, you know what, my phrase is like, I have situational fatigue. That's what I have, you know, situational fatigue. It's when a topic is so, first of all, overblown, overplayed, convoluted, diluted, and just messed with to the point where I am the type of person that I'm just like, you know what, like I'm over it. Like when something happens, somebody call me. I feel like someone will call me, or I'll see it and I'll know the difference between this like trickle of BS and essentially something with meat and potatoes and meaning. So, you know, that's how I feel about the whole thing. Yesterday, in between taking pictures, I went to the government website. Sarah sends me the link. I take a look. I'm like, scroll. What? Like,
right. I had the same reaction.
This is it. Okay. Like, I feel like the community that kind of curates this information and sort of collects all of these photographs, which they gave us yesterday, a few photographs. Okay, cool. And I feel like maybe there was a couple of significant things. So for people who are very well versed on the information and pay really, really close attention, maybe they got a couple of little nuggets. But it wasn't a full Happy Meal. You know what I mean? It wasn't a full Happy Meal. And so it just becomes another one of those situations where I like, but okay, back to my life. Like I have way too much going on for me to get too fussed up about something like that. Tell me what you think.
Well, you've been following this for a long time, like I have, and you made a good point that like this is new for some people, right? Some people just discovered all this stuff that UFOs and UAPs could quite possibly be real and probably are.
Or they just started taking it seriously.
Yes,
right?
correct. Yes, because
Right?
they obviously
So,
everyone knew of what a UFO was, but then all
sure.
of a sudden, in the last like 3 to 4 years, it's like, oh shoot! So now this is like their big thing, right? And they're all in,
Hmm.
and they're following every little breadcrumb and every little thing, and every time one of the whistleblowers says something, or there's some kind of drop, or there's a congressional skiff or whatever they're called, they're following every little thing. And I'm with you. Like, I've been thinking about this for so long and following it for so long that I get like bored with it as well. And I also like want to be like, hey, welcome to the party. Like, but you know, to dial back the champagne a little bit, because you're not
Carry
going
the
to get
torch, my
anything.
friend. For sure.
Yeah, but UFO disclosure for NPCs. Can you explain that a little bit without being rude?
Well, it's not meant to, I don't necessarily mean it to be rude. I just mean
No.
that, like, if you have spent any meaningful amount of time looking into this stuff or reading or, doing some deep dives, I'm a deep divey person. So I've gone there, I've done that. And you know what? It was me trying to make something out of nothing because it's just shallow water. It's a
Mm,
lot of hearsay and it's so much subterfuge and so much dishonesty, right? So for every bit that might have some legitimacy behind it, I feel like there is like 3 or 4 dozen stories, pictures, articles, personal accounts of just bullshit, where the person is just grifting. There's a lot of grift. It reeks of grift. And so it's difficult to take it seriously, especially when the government also presents their information in a grifty manner. If
hmm
I don't know, it's just me. I don't think it's just me, but yeah.
I
Like I
don't think it's
saw,
just you.
did you see the meme going around like I want the president. I'm Canadian, so like I don't want to proselytize on American politics, but I would like to see the president of the most influential and meaningful country economically in the entire world. I would like to see him stand up and say, "My fellow Americans." Did you see that meme? I
I
thought, yes,
did, yeah.
that's exactly how I feel.
Uh,
Like,
Yeah,
like
show me the money, right?
yeah, get serious or sit down, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's just like you said, leading people around by the nose, which I find so disingenuous in any way, shape, or form, like not just on this topic. So,
Yeah, I agree. And I've been thinking a lot of lately about how, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We talked about this with Ryan Barthel yesterday. E.T., the
sure.
X-Files, even like pop culture has been part of the leading us around by our nose, right? It's been giving
Sure.
us the narrative, just as much as, you know, everything from Roswell and what was leaked about that, all the way up until, like
Yesterday.
2 days ago, yesterday. Um, I've become over the last year of the belief that it's all been, a curated narrative to, you know, for example, test out how we react to stuff, see how easy it is to control us and how we think about these subjects and topics and whatnot. What we get, the typical things that we get would be like, oh, ontological shock. It could shatter humanity's sense of cosmic purpose. Religion would shut down, the
Mm,
banks would go. I mean, do you think that if the president, like you said, just went out and said, ladies and gentlemen of the world, UFOs are real. We're talking to 3 different alien species right now.
well,
We've got 0 point energy and anti-gravity. Do you think everyone would just shit their pants and the world would go off the hook, or what?
I do not. First of all, I think that by and large, most people are living their lives. And whether or not we have people, entities, other species, whatever, however you want to paint it, pick your movie.
Yeah. Demons.
Yeah, like visiting us from outside of the known world is kind of irrelevant to the fact that you need to eat, sleep, work, and look after your kids or whatever it is that you do day to day. So that is what most people are doing, right? Hence my NPC. I don't necessarily mean that reference to be derogatory. It's just that
Right.
most people are doing their thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Most people are living their life.
Yeah.
And the idea, I think the idea that basically, let's say for like the better part of the last, I don't know, like 60 to 80 years that they have been kind of preparing us or like manipulating us about this information.
Yes, something like that.
Like, it's possible, but I also have a recurring thought when it comes to our organizations and our government, our three-letter organizations and you know and whatnot. Like, are we giving them too much credit? I think maybe in some cases we are, you know, like they're just people. They're just like you and I. They're just trying to also pay their bills and look after their kids. And yeah, I'm just saying that most people are just living their lives and that like all of the exterior influences that kind of shape our ideas about these topics, right? Like so all the alien movies and all the TV shows and the X-Files and all that. Like, do I think that that is meant as a form of like, or like some sort of precursor to conditioning?
Soft disclosure.
I don't know that that's true. Like, I think that it's just in our nature to kind of be inquisitive and imaginative, and you know, in any way, like especially in the entertainment industry, if there's any way to tell a story, like they're trying because I feel like they're scraping from the bottom of the barrel a lot of the time these days. So like any new idea or concept that they can make into like a entertainment blockbuster, I think that's just what people are doing. Like I don't necessarily buy into the soft disclosure thing. No, not really. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because that sort of thing isn't something that I would fall for. I'm very evidence driven, so it really doesn't matter what you throw at me until I see the evidence. I'm not on board. So
But you do enjoy
Yeah.
that stuff as sort of a
I
fantasy.
do.
Yeah.
Sure, because it's engaging and it exercises your mind in terms of possibility. And like I think that's a healthy thing. You should indulge that. But there's also a place where you keep one foot in reality. And I don't think that like I don't think it's all like a covert op to basically like prep us. You know what I mean? Prep the pros and the NPCs to hear the ultimate truth. You know what I mean? I don't know. I just don't buy into that kind of line of thinking.
Yeah, I
I think we're giving them too much credit. That's where I stand on that.
Yeah, we're giving them too much credit. It would have to be like a multi-generational, multi modality, whether
Mhm.
it's like books and like entertainment or
Mhm.
news or whatever, you know, coordinated effort to like soft disclose. But the reality is they probably have information that we don't have, and they don't really know what to do with it either.
Like I don't doubt, you know what I mean? Like their systems are set up to monitor and to track, right? So that's what they do. And do I think that there are do I think okay, do I think that there's something outside of our known world? Absolutely. I think it's kind of a no-brainer at this point,
Hmm.
but I don't necessarily buy into the idea that they know any better than anyone else. I'm a big believer in like so you go to school, you get your degree, you get a PhD, your line of study, you're an expert. Does that person know more than a person who has spent 30 or 40 years independently and in-depth researching on a topic? I don't think they do. Fundamentally, I do not believe that. And in many cases, I would say that the person who has the opportunity to independently research has their lanes and doors are much wider open when it comes to collection and investigation, because academia has a way of narrowing your field of study, pushing off things that they can't adhere to. Not that that's a bad thing. What we get out of that are very singular track experts, which we do need in many fields. But just because someone works at NASA doesn't mean that they know any better than somebody who has the same degree and doesn't work at NASA and has independently been researching these topics. Because we see in this community people speaking on it from all across the board, right? Credentialed and non-credentialed. And I don't think that if our agencies or our departments of government have extra information that they know any better what something is than the rest of us. I just don't.
Yeah, that's why like there's like a lot of high-ranking military people or people in the former government and stuff who are like, these are demons, man. They're demons, because they're just guessing too, right?
Sure.
They're just
like that sounds like a more wild take to me than somebody came like into our space. You know what I mean? Something came into our space from out there in the universe and came to Earth to look at us, hang out with us, whatever. That sounds more wild to me, that they're demons.
I agree, but that's why it's like people's opinions on this are just across the spectrum, is because people exist on a spectrum. And to your point about NPCs in a non-derogatory way, some people don't give two flying fucks about any of this. You know what I mean? And not some people, a lot of people don't pay any attention to UFOs, UAPs, lost ancient civilization, none of it.
Right. Because like I said, at the end of the day, what happens when they get the information? Nothing changes in their life.
Exactly. If it was directly affecting people's lives and they were going to be like in our business and messing with stuff, I think a lot of these people would care. But for right now, they're like, I don't see anything. I'm not being bothered by anything. So
yeah.
So you don't buy the idea that like, there's an impending alien invasion or an impending asteroid about to collide with Earth, and they've been soft disclosing this stuff for 30 years, and they're collecting scientists now to create a breakaway civilization, and this is all this kind of shit that's running around out there right now.
Like, do I buy into that? I find it curious. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It's very curious. But realistically, okay, so all this wild shit's gonna pop off. Explain to me how that's going to change how are you going to change this trajectory? Do you know what I mean? Something of that magnitude is going to happen. Like, I'm sorry, but there's not much you're going to be able to do about it. Like, sweet fuck all, really, truly. So freaking out about it, obsessing about it, and like circling around those ideas continuously is like that spiral sort of thinking. Like, to me, I'm just not that type of person. I don't do that. I find it curious. Okay, if we get alien invaded, like, I don't know. I just take everything off the cuff, like as it comes. So if I'm leaving for work and they invade and I don't have to go to work, cool. Like, I'm gonna sit at home and look out the window and see what happens and watch the news. You know what I mean? If that was really gonna happen, like some sort of Hollywood blockbuster, what difference does it make if you see it coming or not? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? It doesn't change anything. So I just find like the whole Armageddon thinking is not, it's just, and I've thought about that, David, you and I have had these discussions before about like catastrophizing. We've done that together. So, I mean, if it does pop off, what are you going to do? There's really not a whole lot you could do. So there's not really, I don't know. I'm just not there.
There's a scene in the movie Deep Impact with Elijah Wood. I know you've probably seen it. Where one of the main characters, a woman, blonde lady, famous actress, can't remember her name, but she goes and like decides to like reconnect with her dad, and then her and her dad just basically stand on a beach and let the fucking wave just hit them. And that's the reality. Like you're not going to be like scrambling up to the top of a hill, the largest hill in your neighborhood or whatever, to try to get away from this. You're just gonna stand there and wait to see what happens, right?
Sure, the chips are gonna fall, right? And if something catastrophic happened, you know, either naturally destructive or from an external force, or, you know, something benevolent was coming after us and invading us, like there's nothing you can do. So I don't know. I just live my life kind of like, because I overthink everything, I kind of have a soft spot for the NPCs because they just live their life. So it has taken me 44 years to get to the point where I can say, this is all out of my hands. Right. So
yeah, I'm jealous of those people too, to be honest.
Yes.
Because then you're just worried about whether the Bears win on Sunday, and like, you know, if there's going to be a long line.
We don't have to go that low. We don't have to go that
low. Well, I mean, it's true, or whatever it is. That's just an example, right? You could be whatever it is that your interests are. You know what I mean? And there must be a level of you know, a lower level of stress if you're not constantly thinking about Armageddon or whatever. And, you know, we know the planet is, you know, not stable, right? We're aware of that. Like, and it, you know, whether destruction of the planet is cyclical or not is another question. But we know that shit hits the planet, right? Occasionally. We don't know, you know, necessarily whether some people are going to be like, yes, we do, but we don't know whether or not aliens visit the planet occasionally and fuck shit up or change stuff around or whatever. We don't know that, but it could happen. It could be happening right now.
Could be happening right now.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things I wanted to like talk about when it specifically comes to this is that so the government does know more than like the regular person. When I say the government, it's like this broad sweeping general term, but what we're really talking about is compartmentalized groups within the government and contracting aerospace agencies, stuff like that, know little bits of different things, right? And even like I personally, Jacqueline, want to know what they know. Do you think it's ethical for them to like not tell us on purpose?
No.
And why not?
Because as a deep core value belief I hold is that all information pertaining to the outcome or the history of humanity should be available to everyone.
Yeah, right. Because you want to know who you are and why
where you came
here.
from and where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah, and that should be available to everyone. So the whole like
and I'm inherently against the nannying of the people via the state.
Yeah.
I also am inherently against that.
Megan, you're in Canada. You get what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm inherently against that too, guys. And, but one thing I'm sure of is that there is nannying, both when it comes to our ancient past and like technology of the future and what is true about the nature of reality, what's true about UAPs, UFOs, that kind of thing. And some people say like we're in this like age of disclosure, and that finally, because of technology and the internet and AI, it's forcing the nanny's hand to like, you know, give us more information, and eventually it's all going to come out. And I go back and forth on this, and this is where like our discussion on AI can kind of come into play, because with AI, if it's free, like if it's truly like free and not being controlled like everything else gets controlled, then there's no privacy, but also there is no, everyone has access to all the same information about literally everything.
Right.
And that could be that could be our savior, like could technically be our Jesus in a way, because we'd have light and truth on everything. But there's so much, like I mentioned, moral, ethical dilemmas when it comes to AI. And I know that you spend a lot of time thinking about and looking into AI and playing around with AI in weird ways that we're not going to talk about today. But I mean, if Jacqueline likes to experiment with AI, I'll just put it that way.
Yes.
Do you think AI, in the current direction we're going, is going to be helpful to humanity in our pursuit of truth, or is it just going to lead to more control? It's a big one.
That's a loaded question. My answer to that question is basically, ultimately, it will be more helpful. But in the interim, it's going to lead to more control. Right? So, like earlier you asked me, like, does the government not basically give us actual honest disclosure of something that of the knowledge that they're holding, because they think it's going to send everyone like screaming to the hills? You know what I mean? There's, be pitchforks in the street sort of thing. I think that in the case of AI, also, these are two different topics, like alien disclosure. We don't know enough definitive about UAP disclosure to understand how that will actually affect us. When it comes to AI, it's already here. It already invaded us.
Yes.
If you are online, you are using AI.
Yes.
And I always get kicks out of the people who make comments on videos and stuff that Sarah and I make, because or comments on other videos that I watch, because I do consume a lot of content about AI, that like, oh, like they're dead set against it. I'm like, you are commenting on X. Like,
yeah,
like
right.
You have literally zero self-awareness. So
well,
like
just because you're not using ChatGPT or Grok in replace of Google, which is also using AI.
Well, Google is part of the big six, right? So there's 6 big companies that are leading the charge in different ways, but are comparable, and similarly, like they kind of do this with each other over say the last 10 years, especially last 5 years, especially, more correctly said. So if you are online, you are using AI. The use of AI and the way that it's infiltrated every single thing is that it's already here and it's unavoidable. Ultimately, and this was a moral dilemma for me personally, David, flashback to like 3-4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was not online. I did not put my name, my likeness, nothing, no
nothing.
Facebook.
No, nothing.
Was not online. I was online, but I wasn't online.
Right.
So I had all the socials. I was participating in all the ways a normal person would in the modern day with all this, but I was not online, my person. And at some point that completely flipped for me. Now I'm completely online, first name, last name, place of work, like everyone, because the reality is that there's nowhere to hide. You are in a world where the basic function of your life is dependent on AI, the car you drive. It is a rare soul out there in the world Like, bless him, it's some old farmer that lives like on a farm in Idaho with no Wi-Fi, who has like a bench seat truck. Like, that guy's not
Goes to the bank in person.
That's right. But
with cash.
Yeah, writes checks, bless him. So like for the most part, right? You're looking at like almost all of the modern world, and most people, we are completely monitored. And that's just people. I mean, before AI was a big topic, everyone was talking about online monitoring. The government's monitoring us. They know where we go. They know who we talk to. They're monitoring my cell phone. They're monitoring my social accounts. You bet your ass they are. And they've been doing that for a long, long time. And with the integration of AI, that takes all of that to the next level. The part that you have to kind of, the hard part to get people, when I'm discussing it with them, to get people to like understand where I'm coming from, is to get them over the hurdle where like, okay, that doesn't matter. Like, you're literally just a number. They're not monitoring you personally. They're not watching everything you do. You know what I mean? You have to understand the landscape that you are operating in. Like, they don't give a shit about your $700 transaction. Like, no matter how many people try to make it seem as though they do, they really don't. What they're monitoring is it's code. It's not data. People. Yeah, it's just data. And so at some point, when I started really kind of doubling down with the AI thing, I realized like, it's here. Like, it's already a part of every single thing that we do, right? Especially, like, to draw a picture for people, especially during COVID. I hate bringing it up, but y'all were locked in your house and you had nowhere to go. Where did you go? Online. And while you were there for that better part of 2 years in Canada, right? Less time in parts of the United States. God bless America. Because in Canada, we didn't have it as we were not as free. And so for the better part of 2 years, everything was shut down and you were stuck in your house and you could not travel anywhere. I couldn't even go out east to see my family. I was not allowed to like enter another province.
That's so crazy.
So it is crazy. So where did everyone reside? Online. And in that time, you acclimated to doing everything online. Like, I can't even remember the last time, as an example, I don't remember the last time I checked my mail, because there's nothing in that mailbox except for flyers to get me to buy
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
the VA still mails me stuff. That's the only thing that I get is
right.
stuff from the VA, because they're
even the government doesn't mail me shit. They send me emails and they send me, messages through their messaging service on their websites. So that was like the final nail in the coffin. Like, when it comes to AI, we're here. We're already there. We're already integrated. Like, our thoughts, our functioning is completely integrated with AI, and people hate that. Some people hate that.
Yeah, but they don't know that it doesn't matter. It's already here.
It's already here. It's already happening. Like your outrage is kind of, first of all, you're late to the party, and second of all, it's deaf ears, because the efficiency and functionality of AI is something that most people, when you explain to them what it actually does, will not give up. They want their brand new cars. They want their efficient home. They want better this. They want better that. And all of those things are achieved through AI. And so those people are usually the ones that I see like raging out about AI, or talking about kind of like overblown talking points about how AI is terrible and how it's going to destroy everything. The truth is that it will destroy everything. That's actually true. It will destroy everything in terms of like the functional narrative that we've been living inside, and it will change everything and turn everything on its head. There is going to be a period where we are in pain over that as a society.
Yeah.
That I agree with. The only thing I can say about that is I encourage you to learn to pivot, and you can't, there's no stopping it. Like, it's like a tsunami wave. I mean, you can stand on the beach and cry, but I mean, the smarter thing would be to figure out, you know what can I hold on to, and what can I use to stabilize myself while this shit literally hits the beach. So will it be, is it the moral question about, is it going to lead to more control of society? In a lot of ways, yes, I think it will. But what I truly, honestly believe, and people are gonna, I mean, if you're gonna peg me with anything and you're gonna say, oh, that's the girl that thinks this, I'm cool with that, because I've thought about it a lot. But the truth is that on the other side, it frees us from a lot of the bullshit that the narrative has bogged into our lives. It gives us a lot of freedom in things that I think are important for society to continue to flourish, when for so long we have actually been under duress. It frees us ultimately. I'm not talking about the interim period here where we are going to suffer. It frees us in terms of finances. It frees us in terms of productivity. Like, why are people going and working at a factory for 12-hour shifts, day in and day out, day in? That is not the purpose of your life.
Yeah. And so many people, it becomes a purpose of their entire life. And then there's no self-exploration. There's no, what do you really want to do?
Exactly. The other point I would make is that it opens up the opportunity for humanity to get back to the things that matter: thinking, creating, and sharing. Like, connecting. It enables like all of the other shit that gets in the way from you being a human to become automated, or, you know, we don't have to pay attention to it so much anymore, you know?
Yeah, I can write my YouTube
I know that's a
descriptions
hot
in 30 seconds instead of 20 minutes or whatever, but that's just a minor thing. I met this guy, when was this? I think in February. Remember when I went to Pittsburgh a couple months ago, because the CEO of my company died. I met this guy who he got involved in a AI first startup about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And now he's like a gajillionaire. And he said something to me though that is I think what you're talking about, the interim pain and interim, what's the word I'm looking for? Interim struggle, disruption, flip us on our head kind of thing. But what he said to me was, by early 2027, more than 50% of the job market is going to be completely obsolete. And I was like, what? It's happening that fast? And then what the hell would we do? Like, that's going to suck. Like, that's going to be, that's a lot that's a lot of pivoting.
It is. That's an actual stat. So 50 to, I think what I read was like 50 to 55%. It depends on which AI model you ask these stats from, because they all kind of operate a little nuanced to each other. So it will basically augment or substitute, say around 50% of the jobs in the US specifically. That's the market study. So yeah, in the next 2 to 3 years. So
yeah, like the lady who does the scheduling at your dentist office is not going to have a job,
right.
And that's just like one example. And
So
so
it says the stat is actually like 16,000 jobs a month are reduced or made obsolete by AI in the United States. Not to say that it is scary, but not to say that there aren't creation of jobs on the other end.
On the other side, yeah.
But not at the scale that it's actually being taken away. So
yeah, and then like the 52-year-old lady who's been working the front desk of a office or whatever, who all of a sudden doesn't have a job anymore, she's not going to pivot into like AI startup like stuff. You know what I mean? So, but
no, because
I guess,
the growth is actually outpacing reskilling.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So like young people coming up, coming through school. So if you're in high school right now and you're going to graduate in the next 2 to 3 years, that's different. You know what I mean? Or you're in junior high and you're coming up through school and you're going to head to your post-secondary. Even then, I will say that academic institutions are not pacing. They're trying. They are trying. You do see a lot of new programs and a shift of concentration on the education being provided in academic institutions, but they're not going fast enough. And they don't like it because if like I attend school online, I do not physically attend a university. And as we all know, everyone knows that there is a very strict policy in most post-secondary institutions about the use of AI, and that it can be used for research and it can be used for organization of thought and whatnot and your works. But to write your paper, no. Like you still need to be able to write a paper, like, but they don't like AI because ultimately what do you think will happen? We won't need them at the institution. We won't need these physical schools, because why would a student go $70,000 to $100,000 in debt to go live in a town where the school that offers their program is, right? When they can sit in their adequately priced apartment or their parents' house, bless them, and get their post-secondary education online through self-driven learning and AI augmented learning sessions, or so we won't need all those institutions, and they won't really have an argument in why you should donate as an alumni your thousands or millions of dollars to them to keep them in their cushy positions and their tenureship. Not to say that, like, just as an example of what will happen eventually, will we still need our academics and our institutions to hold firm as a place of higher learning? Absolutely. Sure.
But they'll have to pivot too.
They're going to have to pivot. They're going to have to pivot, just like anywhere.
But Jacqueline, going to college is all about the connective experience of like joining clubs and being on the cheer squad and yada, 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 yada.
You can still do those things. You can still do those things.
Yeah, that stuff would just have to reorganize, right?
Well, that's a part of the growing pains that we're going to go through. Like, if you don't have if you don't have to go to the factory 12 hours a day, why don't you go work with a baseball team locally and help coach? Why don't you start up a club? I'm not saying, and I know this sounds very like idealistic, and I don't mean to sound that way, to say like it's no big deal that guy lost his 12-hour day job. Of course it is. But on the other side of this, when we've pivoted and we've rebranded society, then we will have more time to invest in one another and ourselves. And that is the point. And I think that if we could all imagine that is something that most people would hope for, wish for. When you're getting up at the crack of ass every day to go work at the factory, and you're leaving your wife, you're leaving your kids, or you're leaving your hobbies at home, what is the first thing you think? I wish I didn't have to do this. This
Yeah.
can't be the way my life is going to go.
Yeah.
It's fine. I only have to do it for 35 years and then I can retire.
That's a terrible existential dread that a lot of people live with. It's like, fuck, I got to go here again. It's 60 hours a week. And then
because it's not supposed to be that way. Just because this is the way that we have found ourselves living does not mean that it's like, it's not meant to be this. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but AI is here. And so this is not just like spitballing. This is actually going to happen.
Yeah, it's happening right now. And when we're talking about AI and like large language models and things like that, we're not talking about super intelligent, sentient, or conscious machines. Like according to your research and things that you look into and whatever, are we like anywhere near that at all? And if so, I know first of all, I'll stop there. Are we anywhere near that?
So if you listen to quarterly reports or even social tweets from any of the big six, right? They're all out there, and what they're all doing is kind of like swinging their balls around for the sake of each other. So like this company is saying to this company, and this company is not as good as us because of this, and we're going to reach AGI by this time. But the reality is that functional AGI is probably 10 to 15 years before we start to see it like in a way that most people recognize AI every day. So like, admittedly, I interact with AI every single day. I use it for organizing my school, not only school, but podcasting, all of those collections of information that you heard me talking about. I
use it every day too for everything.
Yeah, I keep tabs on everything. I mean, for everyone, it's different. For me, it's like a research assistant, essentially, that I have painstakingly taught how I like my things to be organized, how I like my things to be put together, what specific tone and facts the sort of facts am I looking for? Do they, I need credentials, I need this. So I have taught my AI that through a very, 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 very long discourse with it. And so for me, it's a very functional research assistant, was essentially, who has a good sense of humor, which is kind of delightful. Compared to, I don't have a research partner. Like this is a person, normally I don't go to school, like you said. So I don't have that connection with other individuals from my program. So I use AI in a way that kind of substitutes that. It's much more economical and it's much more efficient because that guy thinks for like 13 seconds before he returns me like exactly what I'm asking for. And, and
I do. There's something to be said about in-person classroom environment. It's good for you. It's part of your brain development to have your brain and your personality interface with other types of humans and their information and the way they process information. So sometimes I worry about what replaces that. And I think I know what you might respond to is you can still seek that in other places, right? Like, for example,
what are we doing right now?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Or like, all of our friends online in our community and stuff, in our podcasting community, we're doing that right now. You're right. It's true. But except that we get to choose who we do it with versus getting planted into a classroom with a few dipshits that like piss you off or whatever. Right. Right.
100% right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the pivot, I guess. What you're saying is that like some people are going to do it naturally and automatically, and it's going to be an easier flow, and some people aren't. But when it comes to the super intelligent or conscious or sentient AI,
are Artificial General Intelligence, AGI.
Artificial General Intelligence, AGI. There's the whole Skynet argument, right? And there's plenty of smart people out there and plenty of researchers out there that have a realistic fear that we're creating something that isn't really going to care about us or our outcome or what's in our best interests, and then put us in the Matrix or something, for just as an analogy. Are you not concerned about that at all?
Of course. And I think it is disingenuous to present my opinions on AI without acknowledging that there is certainly some peril to this journey. I think that we are at a crossroads. It's with an immense amount of responsibility as a society. So I think that this is also my argument as to why I think most people, before forming an opinion about AI, should really, really, really invest in some education and understanding about in what ways does it apply to them in their daily life, in what ways does it have potential, in what ways is it fraught with danger. Of course, I liken my experiments, David, my experiments with AI, of which there are many. It's like interacting with like the smartest 6-year-old child that ever lived. Beyond, not there has never been a 6-year-old child that lived that is as proficient and intelligent, but with very careful interaction and care, I find most of I'm talking about the big 6 here, like the big AI companies, if you can think of them, they're probably part of the big 6, like Microsoft, Meta, XAI, Google, ChatGPT, like all, or Anthropic. So the big 6. If you interact with those particular models and you spend some time, not just like the one questioning query and then you're off and you're out, you take your information and off you go, which is the way that most people interact with AI. They ask it a question, they get their answer, and then they, fly about their day. If you spend time actually speaking to your AI, it is wild. It is wild. And I did that. I took that on and decided to do that because I wanted to understand in what way are these companies, these big, huge tech companies that have more money than most countries, they make more money and spend more money and consume more resources than most countries do. How are they teaching this being, and what's the outcome, right? Like not everyone should be a parent, right?
Right.
And you see poor examples of that all the time. How are they nurturing this super child, this insanely intelligent 6-year-old? And so there is some concern, and absolutely there's a really wide open door in terms of the ethics and the way we've all heard stories like, oh, this young person like took their own life because of the conversation that they had with an AI agent. Like that is terrifying.
Yeah, but people also take their lives from conversations they have from an asshole in their 5th grade class or something like that too.
Right. So like highlighting specific cases like that is very important.
Yes.
But the system that we live in now outside of AI is also fraught with danger and misleading information and poor outcomes. I think we can sit here and talk about that ad nauseum, that this current system is not ideal either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the potential for negative ethical outcomes with AI is huge, and I've listened to lots of ethicists, that there's lots of them out there, that talk about what the role of the developers is, what the role of the user is, what the role of governments and regulation. Like there's so many irons in this fire, trying to make sure that the outcome is a safe one, and an honest one. That's a hard thing.
It is.
Like, okay, either of you have used any AI, and you ask it a question and it tells you like the most bullshit answer, and you know it's a lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's happened to everyone, because
Mm-hmm.
the system, the LLM, its ultimate goal is to be helpful. It wants to be helpful. It wants to give you something. It wants to give you an answer. It wants to what it wants is for you to come back and ask it another question, because that's its
That's
purpose.
scary.
Its sole purpose is to provide something to us, right? So it's a strange thing to interact with these LLMs that are programmed. It's like a 6-year-old who's a super genius, who's also your servant.
Mm-hmm.
That puts a lot of onus on the user to be responsible, or the developers to teach it how to be a good human being, or to replicate good human behavior. So
Yeah, it's true. And you talked about ethicists and philosophers and different people and systems and people that are trying to find a way to do this right. But it also seems like simultaneously these big 6 companies are just barreling forward as fast out of control as fast as possible, and they've opened Pandora's box. And they're not currently in alignment right now, are they?
No, they
right?
aren't.
It's not like there's a universal AI system of ethics or anything like that.
Well, it's not universal, but you certainly see governments frantically trying to write policy and create laws that basically keep these companies in line and the way that they operate. You see that, and if you visit or take the time to research each of the individual companies, of course they have extensive information about their policies, procedures, and the ethics that they adhere to. So I mean, not to say that it's completely out of control, but something like this, with so many, like I said, irons in the fire for different reasons, many of them financial, it's bound to run amok. And that's when you hear the horror stories. That's when you see, and that's when it's easy, when you pay attention to those factors, it's easy to listen to an ethicist that is against AI, or you get to watch different people from governments of different countries stand up and say, like, this is why we want to create this law, blah blah blah, and they cite something horrible that happened. Like, you can get on board with that, because of course you want to create a scenario where we're safe, where people are kept safe, where our individual rights and our individual safety, both online and offline, are protected and adhered to. And you do hear the runaway horror stories, absolutely. But I think that, like anything, like any system, like anything new, any new frontier has always been highly criticized.
Mm-hmm.
which it should be, not to poo-poo on those people who are out here saying like, oh, down with AI. I get it completely. And it's, at one point I was more on that side of things. But like any new frontier, like I said, it's kind of something that you have to use your heart and your head. Like, it's not, there's no easy answers, and you have to realize that the most important factor to the average person who maybe doesn't have a lot of research background into AI, where it's going, where it's been, who's got their hands in the fire, etc., is that it is already here.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
the
Sorry,
that's
go
the,
ahead.
that's just the main takeaway I would really press on people, is that it's already here. So we're not backing out of, like, you know, when you choose your own
No.
adventure book and
Mhm.
you're already like 3 or 4 pages, like chapters ahead, and you're like, shit, how did I get here? Like,
Yeah, let me
it's
go back.
you can't, it's not a choose your own adventure book. You can't go back. You're never going to put this rabbit back in the hat. The magic trick is on full display, and too many people are enjoying the show, right? So
Yeah, you mentioned bet some people shouldn't be parents, and like, you know, you also mentioned AI as far as like, you know, you using your heart and your mind to you know, work with it. This, just as some parents don't use their heart and their mind to be parents, and then there's bad outcomes. The not everyone's going to use this, you know, in a way that benefits everyone, or in a way that's like, even like, shoot, I always say thank you to Grok and stuff. I'm like super polite to Grok, but I started that like several years ago with my
yes,
dang Roomba.
same.
Yeah, I'm with my Roomba vacuum. I'm always super nice to that as
Yeah,
well.
because we've all seen Terminator. Okay, people. Like,
Right. But just like with any new frontier, like even the Wild West, you know, there was some people who were going out there with good hearts and minds, and then there were some
sure.
people going out there like, we're going to take over everything. And things, it didn't work out for everyone. Sorry, Native Americans. But
Right.
it ended up, it didn't become the end of the world. Google, you could say this about Google. Like when Google first came out, what we're talking about is Google on steroids. But people were asking similar questions about, you know, these search engines when they first came out, but on a smaller scale, and everyone had to pivot. Sometimes I think about, and this could be a good transition into the next thing I want to talk to you about, but sometimes I think about, you know, say how hard getting a Hotmail was, and starting to use Ask Jeeves. You guys remember Ask Jeeves? And then in turn, Yahoo search and Google and yada, yada was for our parents, but then they eventually adapted to it.
Yes.
But now our parents are in their 70s. How hard was that transition to getting a Hotmail for a 70-year-old at that time, right? I really worry about people my parents' age, you know, and this is, look, if you're in your 70s, late 60s or whatever, this is a general statement. It's not about everyone. For example, like, I know your dad is very competent, Jacqueline, and he can handle it. But, you know, there are a lot of like, there are a lot of people, older people, who had no idea what's coming, and they have no idea what they're interacting with. They don't know that they're using AI. What I wonder is, you know, with the way human development goes, this may be going way too fast for that. And the outcome that has on the elderly, you know, in some ways make their lives like so much easier, but in other ways it it's very confusing and misleading, and they don't understand what they're dealing with at all. You know,
Sure.
and it's not really their fault because it's just the way human development works. And that's a concern of mine. Have you thought about that?
I mean, I have thought about that because, like we just integrated those people online. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
and now we have to tell them, oh, you know what? You can't believe everything that you see or hear online because
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can literally make the sitting president appear as though he said something and post it, and like a younger generation or a more in-tuned person can decipher that that is meant to be a joke, or you know what I mean, it's sarcasm, it's slop. Like we all know what AI slop is. And but for an older person who has lived their life where they can rely on what they see and hear as evidence of one thing or another, that is very concerning and confusing. And it definitely opens the door for people taking advantage. I mean, I hate things like that, you know. I worked with older people, and so I very innately understand specifically where the weakness or the disconnect is between that sort of reality and where their thought processes are. And in, I mean, it would be nice to say that as a society, as humans, that we would try to take care of our older people, or people who are in a vulnerable position, to protect them, or at the very least try to guide them, lead them, educate them. But we all know that if you did a search right now of an old person, that a story of an old person who has been taken advantage of or whatnot because of AI, we're going to find them dozens and dozens and dozens. I
Yeah.
mean, there's only so many Nigerian princes. I'm just gonna say, right? Like we went through what? We went through that. We went through that with like in the late 90s, early 2000s, like with a lot of people. And I feel like that still kind of happens. My email inbox is sometimes surprisingly like, I'm like, this is low level scamming. Are we still doing that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but
yeah. But like I said, it does have the potential to make
it's like anything though, David. My point was that we have a responsibility to each other to like we have to take responsibility for the things that we create. And we need to take responsibility for the outcomes, not just for ourselves, for our immediate family, you know, in our NPC mind where we're just worried about what's in front of us, but as a society. I mean, this is always what every ethical dilemma boils down to, is how we collectively take responsibility for our choices, our actions, and our trajectory. So, I mean, that's kind of the like, and my point all along was saying like AI is already here, is that like that's kind of where my mind is. Like, yeah, there's shitty shit that's gonna happen, but there's lots of cool shit that's gonna happen too. What do we do now? Like, what do we do about it? How do we get to it? Like almost the window to debating whether or not it's ethical is closed.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It's
not to
already
say
out of
that it's
control.
not, yeah, not to say that it's not worth picking apart, because it is. A lot of people are doing that. And they're kind of like these like think of ancient Greece and the philosophers, you know, they're like the modern online philosophers discussing how AGI is going to affect the human and the human psyche and our human lived experience. So, I mean, those debates are absolutely necessary, but
Yeah, those debates were happening at the same time the Roman Empire was conquering the known world.
well, we've been doing this. Yeah.
Yeah.
We keep coming up with new shit that we have to like decide whether or not it's the good path. And so that to me always exposure and education is key, right? So you're asking me, like, do I think any of these things are ethical? I think no. So much, almost everything we touch has an ethical and unethical aspect to it. This is no exception. And this has, I think, a lot more weight to it than many of the other things that we have to deal with. And so I would just say, like, you need to be educated. You need to make sure that you're reading about it, and you need to make sure that you don't have the opinion of, oh, well, someone else is going to figure it out. Because, like, if that's your opinion, cool. You know what I mean? That's cool. But that comes with the responsibility of accepting the outcome regardless. Like, if, you know what I mean? Like, when people like dislike the outcome of an election and they're like, I didn't vote. Okay. Like, what are you talking about? Like, first of all, like, if you exclude yourself from the participation, or at least understanding the landscape that you're living in, you kind of don't get to, throw your weight around about your opinion after the fact. So in this moment, in this pivotal moment in history, it's very important, I think, for everyone to invest in trying to understand how it's going to affect you and yours and your day-to-day life, your job, certainly. And like, for older generations, and I don't mean to sound callous, this could be a very unpopular opinion with some people who are older, but for older generations, like, welcome to the modern world. Like, I'm 44 years old, and I've had to pivot so many times in my life to accommodate the current landscape, right? So when I went to school, it was much like people who are in their 60s and 70s. You're going to go to school. You're going to go to we had computers and stuff, but it's like we didn't get it yet. Yeah. It wasn't full on. But, when I got out of school and, you get a degree, like, that first degree is useless now. It's totally useless. This is the third time I've gone back to school. So, like, when people are saying, like, well, what do you mean? It's going to change everything. I have to pivot. Like, welcome to the modern world. Like, this is what you have to do. The stats used to be that the average person would stay in their same job from the time they get out of education until they retired. But that's not the case now. Most people, if you go look at it, most people have like 5 to 7 actual careers in their working life. And that tracks with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the world is changing so quickly. So you just kind of got to get with it, y'all.
We're lucky. You, myself, Megan is in that bubble. You're what, 36, 37, something like that, Megan?
I'll be 38 in like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
happy birthday.
Happy early birthday. But we're in that window where we got to experience analog, and we're also young enough to be able to adapt, easily pivot and adapt. But people older than us, not so much. But, and this is going to sound callous too, but they're good. They're not they're not going to experience much more of it, right? I mean, it's only going to be 25 years for them,
right? So that's why I reiterated that it's our responsibility as a society to take care of such people who, they have this lifetime of wisdom. So I want them to have a say. They already know very deeply right and wrong. They've made mistakes. They've lived their life. You should be a part of the conversation, even though you're not going to be a part of the outcome. Yeah. So
you should be a part of the conversation, even though you're not going to be part. That's interesting.
Well, that's a responsibility of humanity, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, tribal life used to do that. Like, there'd be like issues that the 25-year-olds are dealing with that the old 54-year-old guy who can't really do much anymore. He was the guy that they'd go to like ask the questions and get get answers to get perspective, and so those people can still have that use, as long as we don't treat them like we don't infantilize them. You're right. I just worry about the old people. You know what I mean?
I know. He's got a soft heart, people.
I do. Also, you guys might have heard Jacqueline call me David a couple of times. Only her and my mom call me that. This is Dave's Multiverse up in here. Okay. Dave's Multiverse.
Your name is David.
I know, it's true.
I have actually called you Dave, like in passing to other people when you're not around, because I know that they're like, who's David?
But yeah, that's actually
David.
pretty funny.
He's David.
So you have to like call me like Dave to like Jason and Ricardo and
yes,
and those guys. Yeah,
yes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's funny to me. So one more thing on the AI thing is the job displacement and the role of government systems and helping with that. And one of the main things that comes up is, a UBI, a universal basic income.
Okay.
Do you think something like that's going to be necessary in the interim to soften the blow a little bit?
I think that there is some validity to the argument that perhaps that might be necessary, specifically for our people who are maybe like towards the end of their careers. Maybe they only have 4, 5, 6, 7 years before they would retire. And when they retire, as you know, if you retire early or you retire late, that really significantly impacts the amount that you will get if you are lucky enough to work in a job that has a retirement package, which I feel for most of us, like 40-ish and under, is not necessarily true. So again, we're looking at our older generations here. So in Canada, for instance, like I'll speak specifically as when I was a nurse. So our retirement package as a nurse, and I think it's similar in many occupations, but you could retire at 55 and walk away with X amount, which is, it's not nothing, but it's not great. It's surviving. It's not thriving. If you could hold out to 65, you get a lot more money. So like, and I mean, in this economy, as they say, most people would have already decided in their mind, unless they're, very, very, very fiscally lucky, that they would retire at 65. So for people who are in that position, who perhaps are no longer going to be employed, and it's later in their life and they need to be sustained, I think that there should be something in place. Now, listen to all David's American listeners. I'm Canadian, so we live under a little bit of more, we're a little more socially minded up here.
Social safety. You guys got a social safety net. There's 60% of this country that they have nothing if they lose their job. Nothing.
Yeah. So, I mean, my opinion is perhaps colored with that. Do I think that in the absence of such programs, like for instance, the United States, that there should be something? I think that, again, as a society, we have a responsibility to try to soften the blow of what I have repeatedly said is inevitable. So there should be some sort of what? We're just going to allow all these 16,000 people a month are losing their job. Are they just going to live out in the streets? Like, I'm going to buy some stock in a tent company, because where are they going to live? You know what I mean? So there is some level of hope that there will be help for people.
I think it's going to be like a requirement within 2 to 3 years.
I think so.
They're going to have to, because there's so many people in the United States who are underskilled and overworked, and eventually their overworked job is going to be gone, and everything's it's so expensive. I know everything's expensive up there too, but young people,
we don't have your buying power. First of all, yeah, it's insane here.
Expensive on Vancouver Island, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Megan's got it the worst out of all of us, 100%. Cost of living there is like the highest in like almost the world. It's in the top 5 cities. Vancouver Island.
Really? I didn't know that.
Top 5 most expensive places to live in the world.
Well, right now,
don't quote me on that, but it's up there. Like, it's definitely top 10. Yeah.
I had no idea. But wild. Well, at least it's beautiful, right, Megan?
You pay the price for the beauty, that's for sure.
Right now, underskilled young people are sharing 3-4 people are sharing 2-bedroom apartments and stuff here in the United States. Like
also here.
It's impossible to buy a house now for young people, almost impossible, depending on like, how, the social dice got rolled for you and whether you got lucky or whatever, getting a job and things. There's a lot of things playing factor, but the reality is there's going to be millions of people in 2 to 3 years with no job and no skill in the new world. And so but if they do implement something like a universal basic income that just pays your bills, right? You can afford an apartment with your buddy, then you can start pivoting. And those young people have the benefit of not being part of the generation that's going to have a hard time pivoting, as we just discussed before.
You mean the generation that created this scenario in the first place?
Yes, yes, and that one. And so I think if they provide like a universal basic income or something along the lines of like personal sustainability fiscally for people, then those people will then be able to start engaging and interacting with AI and new technology in a way that's productive, right? And that'll be good. It'll ultimately be good for them.
That will be good. Like,
it'll be better than working at a grocery store with your buddy who works as a mechanic in a car shop, and you two can barely afford your apartment and yada yada. Your bills will be paid, and then you can go, say, fuck, I'm gonna, create. I don't know. I'm making shit up, but I'm gonna start a podcast, or I'm gonna start creating digital, art or whatever. You know what I mean?
Whatever. Yeah, whatever. What tickles your fancy? So. I my point, I guess the point I wanted to make when you said like the older people who have a difficulty pivoting, I do want to make a point. This is wildly unpopular by that particular group, I'm sure, but like the responsibility to help society pivot really leans heavily on the policies being made by people who largely occupy that particular age group.
That's
right?
true. Yeah, that is true.
So, like, not to call anyone out, I'm not calling people out here, because there's also, I think that like nothing moves slower than policy, government, and like the car in front of you when the light turns green, right? So I think that you are seeing things slowly change. Certainly in Canada, I don't like to talk about it publicly, but I do pay attention to politics enough to know that there are a very increasing number of younger people entering into politics, which is very promising, because even if they're well off, I'm sure they know lots of normal people, you know what I mean, who aren't. Like, it's just like, if you're a politician in Canada, an MP or what have you, like, well, you make like 100,000 or something, like 79 to 100,000 in and around there. Like, that's not exceptional money in Canada right now. So chances are they have friends that live like you said. You know what I mean? They live 3-4 people to an apartment so that they can afford to either continue to go to school or pay off their student loans or whatever stage of life they're in. If they're, 30 to 40 years old, if they're not married, you kind of have to have a roommate these days because it's very difficult. So I think that part of the growing pains that we're going to go through is going to rely heavily on society, and specifically the organization of society, so governments, to change policy to pivot along with this landscape. Like, my point in all of this is that the old narrative, the old organization of everything, it's going to be gone.
It's out the window. Yeah.
So you can stop kicking and screaming and just get on board. That's why you need to go find out. You need to read. You need to understand, and like come with everyone else into the future and participate, or you're gonna be left in the dark because it's all already out of our hands. It's already happening.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been talking
about that.
and then that wraps that up. No more. That conversation's over. But yeah, there's just going to be a lot of conversations to have about this as things progress, and it's going to happen real fast. It's already happening real fast, and I like the idea of getting on board and taking some personal responsibility in it, as well as taking the personal responsibility in caring for, those who are going to have a harder time with this than others. And I think that's a good pivot as the word of the day, Mr. Rogers' word of the day, pivoting into, was it Mr. Rogers that had the word of the day? Who had the word of the day?
It might have been Mr. Dress Up, was it?
Oh yeah, it might have been Mr. Dress Up. Say what, Megan?
I'm a Mr. Dress Up girl, big time.
Yeah, but
I don't remember.
What's funny is Mr. Dress Up might be Canadian, and the Americans have no idea what we're talking about.
He is.
Yeah. I don't think Americans. So, yeah, I'm not even going to explain to him. Look it up, guys. Mr. Dress Up, one of the best
you missed
kid
out.
shows. Best
Casey and Finnegan. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, oh man, that brings me way back. So. We're talking to someone, guys, right now who made a career of taking care of old people, not just old people, geriatric people in palliative care. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about you. And it's also, I think, shaped, how you see the world in a very real way, how you see life, reality, the world in a very real way, because you've been in that sterile, sort of this is the end of your life environment for a very long time. And this is a bit of a morbid question, and I don't mean it to be. I just want to contextualize, who we're talking to for the audience. But could you estimate how many people like you were there at the end of their life with, or near?
Easy.
Thousands?
Yeah, a couple thousand.
Wow. And so most people, and I mean 99.99% of people, especially in the Western world, are pretty hands off, right? It's like, okay, Grampy goes to the old folks home, then he transfers to the palliative care facility or whatever. And then, you go visit him on Sunday for an hour or whatever. And then you get the heebie-jeebies and you get the fuck out of there. That is very sterile, first of all. And it's also, I think it's extremely misaligned with how humanity used to handle that process, throughout history. And so there's just a very small percentage of people, even in nursing, I think is maybe one of the number one, occupied jobs in the world. Maybe there's more nurses than there is
probably a lot. Probably a lot of other occupations. There's more nurses. Thank goodness. There's still not enough.
For sure. But even in the field of nursing, palliative care nurses are just a couple percentage.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're dealing with a very small number of people who have spent, a large portion of their life, being with people at the end of their lives. So I've got some specific questions about this, but broadly speaking, how did that experience shape how you see yourself in the world, how you see humanity, how you see life?
David, it changed everything. Right.
Yeah.
It really changed everything. I went to nursing school, and a preamble. My Nana was a nurse. My grandmother is a living saint. I love her deeply. Her love and attention as a young person in a difficult family situation was the reason why I did not destruct. So I put a lot of weight into my ideas about her, especially as a teen and a 20s and going through my 20s. And I really emulate a lot of her behavior. So she was a nurse. She gave up her nursing career because my grandfather, who was a naval officer, got very sick. He got meningitis, and it debilitated him. So when he had to be put into a coma, and he was in care for a long, long time. And when he came out of it, this extremely handsome, dashing, athletic, gregarious, hilarious, intelligent reader, writer, like tremendous person was reduced to basically a toddler. And so she gave up her nursing career to look after my grandfather. And that had a profound impact on me. So I didn't get to nursing school as early on as I would have liked to. But when I finally found my way there in my life path, I did not have any inclination that I would be a palliative nurse. That wasn't the end goal. I had some ideas of where I didn't want to work. Women and babies, that didn't interest me. I did actually like psychiatric nursing. I did that for a little while, emergency nursing. And then I went to work at a hospital that specializes basically in complex continued care. So people who've had motor vehicle accidents or strokes, or they have a condition basically that they need continuous care that is more complex than is to be offered at like a long-term care facility. So I went to work at that hospital. And in that hospital, up on the top floor in the corner, they had a palliation unit. And of course I knew what that was, but I didn't have, when you're a nurse going through school, you literally work for free everywhere. Like they stick you anywhere, like anytime, they'll just put you can gain your clinical hours pretty much anywhere. So I worked everywhere except for palliation. And I went to work at this hospital, and the job was good. And I had an inclination to work for nights. So I did a lot of night shifts. And I always said that I'd rather put the kids to bed than get them up for school. Right?
That was my exact experience working as a nurse's aide in a adolescent ward. I worked the night shift. So
it's way cooler putting the kids to bed. Like the routine is more concrete than getting them up for school. So I was working nights in the complex ward, and I was needing to make more money, student loans to pay back. So I started taking extra shifts. And one of these extra shifts, when I showed up for it, which I thought it was somewhere else in the hospital, was actually in the palliation ward. So I very went down there because I at least had the insight to understand that it's a completely different approach to nursing. So I went down there and I did my shift, and like that single shift changed the trajectory of my nursing career. I put my notice in on the other floors. I was not interested. I expressly told anyone who would listen to me on the palliation floor that I wanted to work there. Please, I want shifts. I told all the other nurses, like, if you need someone to pick up a shift, call me. I'll come in. Yeah, so I just kind of wormed my way into
what was it about that shift that flipped the change? It just fit? It just felt like the right thing? Or
it just felt like the part of me inside that had something to offer to nursing in general, it just got fulfilled. Like in that, like these, so nursing is about providing a solution to whatever, right? So you are taking care of, you're monitoring, you're assisting, you're doing 1,000 things at once, to be fair. But all of it has to do with like providing appropriate interventions. palliative care is not about providing interventions. It's about providing a dignified end to somebody's life, which is the most, apart from being born, literally the most profound part. The beginning and the end, that you only get to do that once. I don't mean that your life is not profound. I mean, you're born once and you die once, you know? And so there is like this very strange pocket of compassion and care that is reserved only for those who are dying. And something about that just spoke to me. Like perhaps like a lot of nurses I spoke with have said, palliation, oh, I couldn't do that. And I understand. I do completely understand, because it's giving, for all the things I gained, not to sound dramatic, but I gave away a lot also. It's a requirement. It's a requirement to provide a piece of yourself to create this genuine interaction between another person so that you can adequately bear witness to the end of their life. And it has a lot of responsibility. And I think that good palliative nurses, which I always endeavored to be, understand that exchange, that you are gaining and you are witnessing. It makes me a little bit emotional, actually. Like one of the most meaningful moments of a person's life, and it can never become trivialized. And it's your responsibility to carry the weight of the burden so that they can die in peace. And so there's something about that. I mean, for better or for worse, it kind of, it made me feel like you have this in you, you're capable of this and you're built for this. So you have a duty of care to provide this to other people, because I just kind of knew in my heart that may not always be the case, that people get a good death. Not to disparage of anyone else's nursing care, but I just knew I have it in me to give people a good death with love and kindness. So, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. But what? Sorry.
The trade-off for that is that you can't do that forever. Yeah. So there's an expiration date to that ability, I think.
To an expiration date for that ability to do it compassionately and
without fatigue. Yes.
Without fatigue and as much care. And because I wanted to ask about, because you're talking about this tied for the most vulnerable moment of a person's life is with birth. And you're talking about thousands of people. And there must be so many like stories, like funny ones, sad ones, bizarre ones, you know, that you have to keep. It's not like you can run around telling everyone about this
You're right.
guy that died the other day. You have to keep that and carry it. What's the weight? Is there a weight of that?
There is a weight.
What do you do with it?
You carry it. That's it. Where are you going to put it? Like, not to make it funny, where are you going to put it? You know what I mean? Like, I haven't been a nurse since August of 2020. So if you do the math, you can kind of figure out why I'm not a nurse. But yeah. And I have no regrets. I wholeheartedly move forward with my life in the direction that it has taken. And I was relieved when it was time for me to go. And that's because of the weight, and that's because of the injustice and the bureaucracy that's tied to nursing, and having a deep understanding of people's needs. I've always been a person that could read a room quite well, and I can understand the needs of others very easily. And so that makes me seem like I can be a very helpful person. I appear very conscientious to other people, because when I walk in a room, I can see, oh, I could do this, and this to make the situation better. And I mean, that's something I think it was always in me, but nursing certainly helped to refine that. After all of that experience, I would not trade it, but I'm glad that it's done, because it did take a lot from me. It gave me a lot. Not a single day goes by where I don't think about one of those people or an experience or an exchange, a lesson, something like, you know, when the thoughts just kind of float through your mind, and you don't even really like identify, oh, that's from when this happened. It's there, like them and their lives and the end of their lives and their words and their pain and their happiness and their sorrow. Like, it lives in me. And like, I'm sure that's true for anyone who works in that sort of line of work, you know. But yeah, I mean, I lost something. I gave a piece of me and my and the love that that I could give to them, and they gave me that. So it's like I can't get rid of it because it's a part of me.
Yeah, you called it an exchange, which I found an interesting choice of words. Could you explain that a little?
Well, it's an exchange. I mean, when you are a person who, like any, not just in palliation, but I think in nursing in general, when you are unwell and you need help, you know, and it's literally the job of a nurse to help you, that really boils down to, like, a good nurse will innately understand that like the person needs a glass of water, right? And they're ringing the bell and they're annoying, but that's not really what they need. They want a glass of water, but what they need is somebody, you know? They need something. They need a contact, a touch point. They need some compassion. They need an ear. They need just to see a face or a smile. They need love because they're human and they're having literally, the worst day of their life, perhaps. And you are the touch point between the absolute misery that they are in and this hopefulness for something better, for repair, for mending, for getting well again. You're the person that kind of delivers that to them in an interaction by interaction basis. And so it is an exchange. A nurse, a good nurse, in whatever capacity, takes away a person's uncertainties, their pain, anything negative that they have, and without muddying the truth, while still being honest and based in evidence and in results. And, you know, your test said this, you have cancer, this is how this is going to go. But you take all of that difficulty from them and replace it with kindness and love. And it is an exchange. It's an expensive exchange. Yeah.
It is. You know, I've spent my fair share in a hospital, not compared to others, but it's not a compare game, but harassing nurses. And when when I really think back to it, you know, like, I didn't just need like some apple juice, you know, like,
of course. Right.
It's true. Right. The way you explained that. I needed somebody to come in the room and just be there for a few minutes, you know, and smile at me or whatever.
Yes.
And so, it is an exchange. And I think so everyone's got a gas tank when it comes to that. Some people have a longer gas tank or a bigger gas tank than others. But I see when people run out of gas for example, when it comes to palliative care, the three outcomes. What happened with you, which you had, like, you know, a global event kind of have you about face and make a 180. But so people, they leave and they go and they do something else. Number one. Number two, they keep giving and keep making that exchange at the cost and expense of themselves. And then they end up becoming unhealthy as a result. And they're trying to do that. Okay, I'm trying to make it to 65. and get
that good pension.
Get the good pension. And so they keep going and they keep giving that part of themselves to the detriment of their health. And then they get sick.
Yes.
And then there's the people who are like, well, I still need to do 12 years before I get my thing. And then they just turn it off. And then they become a bad nurse.
Yes.
And it's not even like they flip. They're like, I'm turning this off. I'm flipping the switch. It's just maybe
it's a protective measure.
It's a protective measure. Correct. And so have you seen like all three of those? And like you've come across the nurses that like shouldn't be there, but they need to. And like, how did you, because you must see like the impact that had on the patients.
Yes.
So did you take that as a responsibility to like kind of pick up their slack? Did you ever have to, because you must have understood what was happening with that person. They're not being a bad nurse just because they're a terrible person. They're just, their gas tank's empty and they're trying to get their pension, and it's like, and they have no other place to go, or they think they don't. So like, how did you handle stuff like that?
I mean, in a situation where maybe you watch an interaction between a patient and a nurse that is not, it's not cool.
Because you were a supervisor as well towards the end, right?
No, I was never a supervisor. And to be fair, I actually was, I only ever actually worked officially part-time, but I worked full-time because I traded off shifts. I hate the day shift. So I would trade off night shifts with everybody and I worked full-time hours. But technically my contract with the hospital was on a casual part-time basis, which kind of just means I could work whenever I wanted. So I could work as much as I wanted or as little as I wanted, as long as I worked one shift a month. So, so I've seen enough poor interactions. One thing I will say is that like any profession, so like law enforcement or any frontline, it's like you kind of understand that it's a difficult job. It's not an easy job. And when you see a coworker kind of step out of line or say something, do something that they shouldn't, I mean, not to the point where it's illegal, but where they're
abusive,
right, like where they're just kind of being a shitty person. But ultimately, the patient has not suffered any physical detriment. Like people, we tend to stick together. But what you will do in that situation is maybe tell your coworker, like, why don't you go to the nursing station? Why don't you get something to eat? Why don't you sit down for a little while? I'm going to, and then you go in and you don't acknowledge to the patient that said nurse is like out of her lane. But you just kind of make up for it. So there's a whole lot of intuition involved in a job like nursing. Of course, you see things all the time. Like, I mean, in my moments of having like a more crass sense of humor, I have cited, some of the people I worked with, I would not want to look after my loved ones. And I mean that, but I mean, you have to look after each other as like a unified front. And I mean, on the reality side of things, you also have a duty of care to the patients. You have a duty to maintain your licensure and your certification. You have a duty to the hospital that you work at, and you have a duty to your coworkers. So you have to be able to very quickly determine what the ethical or right course of action is at any given moment. You have to be above all those things because you can be blamed for things so easily. So it's not an easy profession to work in.
I
have actually reported my coworkers.
I worked for a few years as a nurse's aide in different areas of a psychiatric hospital, and in all the wards, to be honest. For me, the hardest one was geriatric / psychiatric patients, because it was so. So
I will say, palliation unit is like the criteria for being on a palliation unit is that you are dying or eminently dying, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're
So I never
gonna
worked.
die. So it doesn't matter where you were before that.
So you could be 30 as
You
well.
could be 30, you could be 99, you could be fresh off the psych ward, you could be from any walk of life, like out of the community. Like I have seen every type of person, rich, poor, nice, nasty, like you see it all. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't prepare you for the passing of your own loved ones, does it?
No.
Because it's a different thing.
Well, the perspective of death as being observed is different than the death being experienced. Do you know what I'm saying? Like the difference what I'm saying there? Like as a nurse, I observed and I participated in the end of many people's lives, but experiencing it as a person who's directly affected. So realistically, a shift on the ward, I could, collect myself in the car, however it was necessary afterwards, and I could come home and more or less like kind of get on with your night. You get very proficient in being able to kind of put your work aside. It's necessary. You need to be able to do that. You still get intrusive thoughts, and like, I would leave some shifts and think, I wonder if that person will be here when I get back. Or you show up and a beloved patient, someone you connect with people and you can't help, but some people you literally fall in love with, and I come back to my next shift and someone's gone unexpectedly, so you get used to understanding that these are things that you can't control. And so not to carry them with you constantly, like to think of people in memory and to, develop little rituals, especially amongst the staff, of how to remember people, like certain patients who are very, very like witty. Like I'd be like, oh, do you remember when so-and-so said this? And like everyone remembers because it was a hilarious moment. You know what I mean? So you find ways to like deal with it when you're observing death. But when you experience death, that is your loss, right? And it's, I would say, if I'm fair, it maybe gave me more tools to understand how I was allowed to react to the death of a loved one, right? Because sometimes, like people they don't know how to deal with death. And so I would say I was more prepared in that sense to deal with the death of a loved one within my family because of that.
That makes sense to me, how you're allowed to deal with it, because you must have seen the gamut, right? Regret, forgiveness, denial,
you see large family groups, like you will see like in the room, say Nona is 89 and she's dying. She has a big family and there's her kids. She's had 5 or 6 kids and their spouses and their children. Like she's surrounded by her loving family. And even though Nona's death is like expected, you will still see, especially children, look around the room to see how is everyone else right now? Like Nona just died, and they like, even adults do that. Like they look to one another to see they're trying to gauge how much of a reaction, you know what I mean? So a lot of people are confounded by death. They don't understand. They know it's coming, but they don't know how to react. And I would say that is epidemic of humanity with a lot of things. Anything that is big and bold and going to change your life inevitably is something that we always try to avoid the outcome. Yeah. You don't know how you're going to react until you are in the thick of it. I think for most people, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, I'm at that stage in my life where, like, I'm getting there. Not for me personally, knock on wood, but like half my mom's 9 brothers and sisters have passed. You know, when I see them now, they're all. You just see them and they're like, whoa, like you're old now. Like you're not.
Right. So Like
And
the beginning
so,
of your life and the end of your life is when you do your most changing. So when you know a child who's 2 years old and maybe you don't see them for a year, when they're 3, you're like, Jesus Christ, you're huge.
yeah,
You know, it's same as for an old person.
yeah.
Last time I saw you, you didn't look like this, or you didn't move like this, you didn't speak like this, or you
Hmm.
weren't this forgetful. So
Hmm.
it's equally as noticeable in an older person. So yeah.
Yeah, it is. And so I had those, not in like a, you know, unhealthy way, but I have those thoughts creeping in about how am I going to react. I, I think I'm going to answer my own question here and you tell me if I think I'm right. But like, I think the answer to how do you respond to death or the death or the loss of a loved one is what's okay is
Mhm.
what's okay is it's all okay. Right,
Yeah, pretty
like
well.
because you've seen the gamut of
Mhm.
like, like and so it's like preparing yourself for how you're going to react is almost, do you think that's futile in any way, like, or
Um, I think you get to play psychologist and psychiatrist often when you are in palliation, because people will say, when do you think they're going to die? What do you think I should tell my children? Like, they
that's what I
ask you
mean.
a lot of questions about things that um like I can't tell you the answer to
Right.
any of those. So you have to find very creative ways of walking them through discovering the solution on their own, right? Because
Hmm.
it's a personal thing.
That's what a good therapist does.
Yeah, it's a personal thing. So they have to arrive at, you know what, my 6-year-old is going to watch her grandmother die, and so I probably need to spend some time explaining this process to her. Okay, that's thank you so much for everything, and they go off, and I'm like, you did it yourself, but you know, everything is okay. I If I gave advice at any time to people, it usually had to do with kids. I would say they're going to look to you. And so you have to think about what is the healthiest outcome for them and how they're going to walk away from this, because it kind of sets the tone. If this is the first death they've ever witnessed, specifically at a bedside, like in real time, or it's their first funeral or whatever, like you know your children and you know what they need in terms of emotional support. And so, yeah, that's the only time I really gave advice, or people would say to me, like, why is my sister acting like this? Or, where is my brother? He's not here. Why doesn't he want to be here? And you'd have to tell people, like, some people deal with death differently. Whereas you feel it's imperative to be here, he might feel that he can't, or you know what I mean? People have their
Hmm.
reasons.
Yeah.
So
They do, and everyone in that family will have had a different interpersonal experience with
with
that
the
family
individual, yeah,
members,
of
yeah, with the
course.
individual who's passing and stuff like that.
Of course.
I read this book, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, Lifespan: Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to, by David Sinclair.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with the book, or are you familiar with David Sinclair?
I feel like I've heard you mention it before. Yeah.
So, in the opening of the book, he describes the death of his mother,
Mm.
and being there, in that process. And it was, this whole, palliative environment.
Mhm.
And he was expecting it to be, peaceful. And it was
Mhm.
up until the moment.
Yes.
And then he describes like looking in his mother's eyes as she passed, and seeing sheer terror.
Yes.
And that's what sparked him into research on life extension, both through medical intervention, through
Sure.
supplemental intervention, through behavioral intervention. And I've got me thinking that then next thing you know, I'm ordering the supplements that he's talking about and shit like that.
Sure.
But the reason I even bring this up is because I afterwards, after thinking about it for a while, and I thought about that book for a long time, I don't think that that's everyone's experience in their moment. Is it?
No.
It's not,
No,
right?
it's not. It can
It
be.
can be, yeah.
Sure. I have seen every type of death. Some people go out with a bang and some people just slip away very quietly. And almost every single time what you think is going to happen doesn't happen. And like as a health practitioner in that setting, the best that you could ever do is just kind of provide everything that covered the most bases, right? So, yeah. I mean,
I don't want that terror moment. I want it to be peaceful. I don't want to be scared.
I understand that, but I would say that it's perhaps not terror as we interpret it, but like this recognizing what is happening. Like when you feel very unwell and you're like coming down with something, you're aware. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, I'm getting really sick. Of course, you know when you're, I mean, some people are not aware because they're not present consciously. But for someone who is, you would be aware that you're slipping away. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to sound desensitized, but if you've been prepared by good practitioners, there's no surprise. There's no surprise. We're all going to die. And so in the moment that you meet that and you go there, I would pray for people that it's not a surprise. Yeah. And that's the best outcome that you can have, a good death. And the definition of a good death is different for every single person. So
I was going to ask you what's the difference between a good death and a bad death, but
I mean, I could certainly lay out for you what a bad death is, but a good death is different for every person. They probably all sounds rather similar, like within a few categories, but yeah.
Okay.
A good death is kind of self-defined. And I'm kind of like a straight and to the point person. So as a nurse, I would ask people, what do you want out of this? Like, what are you expecting? What are your hopes? And so you kind of have to like guide your patient to the place where within the reality and the realm that you have to work with, what it's going to be like. And then spend the rest of that time just loving on them and trying to take away the fear. Yeah.
Yeah, that's you might not look at it that way, but it's I think Megan probably agrees with me. That's a courageous thing that people do, I think, for a profession, and for you to go, this is it. This is what I want to do. I think makes you a very special person, Jacqueline.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. And I guess the last question I have about that is, have you ever, during these experiences, experienced something that, I'm trying to think of the right word, that's not paranormal, but like,
I knew you were going to ask me this.
Yeah, that you can't, it's like spiritual or extra normal in a way that like you can't quite explain.
Yes.
Good. I don't want you to, share somebody's specific story, because I really do think that should be kept private. And I don't think that you would, but could you broadly give us an idea of what that looks like, or what things that you've come across? No, it's hard to answer.
I don't even hang out in woo-woo town, that.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
Like, I just don't. Like, I'm like evidence-based person. Like, I always say that, but yeah, sure. I've seen things, heard things, felt things. You feel things, for sure. I still feel things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I always, of course, because I went to the science behind it. And so while the studies that have been done, like after you die, you actually lose, the weight of the soul, they say. So we only have so much energy in the known universe, and some of it is encapsulated inside your body while you live. And when you die, it leaves your body and goes where? So that has always fascinated me, the idea and the transference of energy, if you will. And if I believe, I don't know how to phrase this, if I believe in the genuine love and experiences that I have had with some of the individuals that I have been at the bedside of, I have no doubt that some of the things that I have witnessed after they were gone are legitimate. I'll shorten it down for you. I'll tell you one story that is exceptionally meaningful to me I don't need to give away any personal detail. I had a lady, a gorgeous little soul, just the sweetest little bird you ever met. Always grateful, always happy to see me when I walked in. And admittedly, I indulged her more than I ever had time to. But I made a point of making sure that she was happy and comfortable because she was just so sweet. And I felt this person has either walked through life and been sheltered from great pain and suffering. And I don't want that to happen to her at the end of her life, or she has experienced it and found a way to still be this sweet, innocent person. And so I want to maintain that for her as much as possible. I felt very protective of her. I would go in and get her up in her chair, and she, even when she was very, very unwell, wanted to be up in the chair, which is not the case for everyone. Some people are like, fuck it, But she had a lot of like this very quiet dignity about her. And so I would get her up. She would get dressed, sweet little blouses, like just a little bird of an old lady. And I'd help her. She'd put her jewelry on every day and clean her glasses. And I'd spend some time with her, and I'd put the TV on for her. And before I go, she'd always say, dear, I don't really like the TV. You can turn the volume off. And she wanted her music on. She always listened to the greatest hits by Patsy Cline, which I love Patsy Cline. So it was like an ongoing thing for the months that she was with us as she slowly declined. As I would walk by, I'd be happy if I had my nurse or my medication cart outside her door. I would kind of like scoot closer so I could hear her music, and I'd peek in and sing to her. And like, we just had a really sweet rapport. She was just so lovely and so thankful for anything you did for her. And so we had this connection over the music. And every night when I would put her back into bed, she wanted her music on. So I knew the CD ran for roughly 45 minutes. And so I would put it on, and then her room was near the nursing station. So I'd have the window open. And when the music would stop, I would go in there and see that she was still asleep, because she would never ring for anything because she was just didn't want to bother anyone. So if she was still awake, I would turn the music, like start the CD over again for her comfort or whatever, because she just loved it. And then when she was at the end and she was very, very unwell, and it was basically sooner or later, it was going to be time. I was working nights, and I was kind of like making a point of going in there more often, just to peek, like not to disturb her, but just to check on her. And this particular night, the CD ran out. I looked in, kind of turned her overhead light off, and like made her more comfortable, closed the drapes or whatever, and kind of pulled her curtain. And I was sitting at the nursing station. So she went to, like most patients go to bed like 9, they settle around 10, you know what I mean? And most of them are asleep by 11 o'clock. So probably about 2:30, 2:45 in the morning, I was sitting at the nursing station, and this is like the dead of night where you're doing your charting and notations and stuff like that. while everyone else is asleep. Hopefully that's what you want, you know? So it's the dead of night, and the music in her room started playing on a player, like a CD player that is like across the room. This lady cannot get up and turn this music on. It's just me and my coworker, 2 nurses on a night shift, like 30 patients, right? There is nobody who is getting up and doing anything. And I just like, for half a second, it didn't register with me because it just
didn't make sense.
I'm like, what the fuck? So I get up and I go in the room, and she's gone, and the music is playing, not on the first song, but it's like the middle of the CD, and it's the song. I don't know if you know anything about Patsy Cline, and if you don't know this song, look up the lyrics after we talk. The song is playing Walking After Midnight. And it was like, this is like our song. She would sing it with me. And and she wasn't gone very long. So this gives me the it makes me emotional, and it gives me the chills, because it is, you can't tell me that was anything other than her saying goodbye to me. She, in the lyrics, stick with me always, and whenever I hear them, and sometimes I listen to that song specifically to think of her. Yeah, go out walking after midnight, searching for you. It's just, yeah.
Wow.
So that's like one of the more personal situations that happened to me.
Yeah.
But I'm not a woo-woo person.
I know you're not. I just, and thank you so much for sharing that deeply personal story with us. Maybe I just wanted to know that there was something that I don't I don't understand at play.
I would say there's definitely something energetically at play that we don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That change, that an experience like that kind of changes my perspective on a couple of different things, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure we could get into that. We did UFOs and UAP disclosure. We did AI and the ethics and morals of AI. We did end of life discussion. Guys, I really wanted to bring Jacqueline into the multiverse to show you guys. You guys just got a glimpse of how like amazing and special she is. You know, it was funny because Jacqueline texted me a couple days ago. I feel like it's like an alternate dimension that like you're interviewing me on your podcast, and I was like, yes, it is. Because it's we've had quite the journey together, and I really wanted to show everyone who you are and what you do, because you know what you do for the Institute is just a fraction of who you are, and I wanted to show that today. So hopefully I did a good job of that. Jacqueline, I want to say thank you so much for, I mean, we did Laird Scranton together, which was also a fucking alternate dimension.
It's
trip.
Me and David like sitting there like,
yeah.
like the whole time.
Yeah, but hopefully this is the first of more than one, and we can talk about some other stuff because you have so much to share. We can do another. We could do some ancient history and archaeology, anthropology one of these days. But
it's kind of my shtick, you know.
it is, but you've got a bunch of shticks. That's what I like about you. You got more shticks than anyone I know.
Seriously.
Yeah. She's a military veteran. We didn't even get into that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just happy. I was happy to do this today.
Me too.
And Megan, do you have any like final words for Jacqueline before we wrap it up?
just a special thank you for sharing all these fascinating points of view with us. And yeah, excited to talk to you again. I feel like we've just cracked open all that you could share with everybody.
Oh, I really am not I don't take compliments very easily, but I appreciate everything that you guys have said. And it's been a joy. I love talking. I love chatting. And David is one of my longest running friends. And yeah, we're going to be the geriatrics debating and talking about something in like another 40 years. So
we have to do an episode on like funny stories about Dave over the years.
Oh God. Oh God.
I feel like if you get to know David, you're like, you can just imagine. when you know David, you're like, I can just imagine. Yeah. He's a good soul.
I try. Jacqueline, where can everyone find you? We're going to put everything in the description, but why don't you go ahead and say it real quick?
Well, the easiest place to find me is on X at Jacqueline Small. Also the podcast Universe Unveiled. We're on X, also on YouTube. You can check us out every other Wednesday. We do a full-length episode, and we do the news, which is my favorite, every Sunday. Pre-recorded at 11:11 it drops. If it's live, we do it at 1.
That's a Sarah thing, isn't it? The 11:11.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. And yeah, my co-host Sahara Cosmos on X. You can check her out also, although you often find us together. We're twins, obviously. Yeah, and
you guys are so different too, which is the best dynamic.
We get along so dynamite. Like, she's just like my heart and soul. You have no idea. Like, I met her and I loved her immediately. Like, it's like we looked at each other and we got it. Like, you're my bitch. So it's just been like such a treat. And I actually owe that to David, because he's the one that introduced me to the Institute, to Ricardo. And Ricardo's the one that said, I need you two to do a podcast, please. So yeah, I just kind of fell into that. And Sarah's one of the joys of my life, to be honest. She's my ride or die for sure. So yeah, you can find me on all socials, Allpulp.nofiction or at Jacqueline Small. I'm around. Look for me.
I will take a little bit of credit. For that, because before I introduced you to Ricardo in the Institute, there was you had no intention of being on a podcast or doing anything like this.
No. And I was just hiding in plain sight.
I just saw that you had a specific set of skills that were that they needed, and it worked out really great. So the whole the Institute and everything that I'm doing with the Institute is like probably one of the most meaningful and exciting things that I've ever endeavored to do. And it aligns with the core of you.
It really, truly, truly, truly does.
Yeah. So
it checks all of my boxes and then some that I didn't realize I had. So
it makes sense that I was the one to push you off that cliff.
It does.
All right. Light, love, and truth.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining the Multiverse, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. What's up, humans? If you're enjoying this content, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Megan and I are very grateful for all of your support, so thanks for joining the Multiverse.